Hi, I'm JJ. Welcome back. This is my mid-month roundup. These are the books that I read and listened to that were not part of my the challenges or the tags. So I already did a specific one for Sapphic September for the 3 books that I read, as well as 3 books that I read for Shaketember in other videos. And this will be the ones that I read that do not include those. I'm still working on my Shorty September ones because I'm going to combine all those books together, except for a Sumo one that I'm also doing separately. But I did read a lot, rather listened to a lot this month. Once again, a bunch of the stories that I had planned to read are all expiring, so I'm trying to get through those before they expire. It's been difficult because some of them are longer and some of them are heavier, and I don't really have a choice for mood-wise if I'm trying to get through them before they expire. So one of them was one that I had on my classic to be read list for my audio blind date series that I'm doing. But I had to add it now because it expires soon, and that is Atonement by Ian McEwan, and I really enjoyed that book. It was kind of interesting because when it starts out, it's from the point of view of this little girl who is like 12, I think, who is a storyteller, and she writes stories and does plays, and it very much was reminiscent of Jo from Little Women. And then it sort of, derailed and went very off course. So it's like you have Jo who was good and did this, and then you had this girl who essentially saw something that she didn't understand or didn't like, and then basically weaved a story into a lie that made her feel like the hero so she could save her sister from this villain that didn't exist. And in doing so, she ruined the boy's life and made much more of it than she needed to. Got a lot of other people in on her life for completely different reasons. And the atonement is, how do you make up for that? How do you change and fix a life that you had ruined? So you have that aspect from her point of view, but then you also get to follow the boy who was essentially the daughter of one of the son of one of the servants, and he had the audacity to fall in love with the daughter, the well-to-do older sister of the main narrator. And their relationship actually was very beautiful and very sweet, and this would work really good as a romance as well. But then you have this this darker, deeper meaning and storyline weaved in. So he has to go to prison, and then he goes to war because the book starts in 1935, and so by the time he gets out of the prison and stuff, he's goes to serve because World War II starts, and he happens to be in Dunkirk, which is, both of them are very traumatic places to be in Europe. But so he's in Dunkirk, and you get to see the French side of things. You get to see his side as a soldier who wants to get home and start a life that has been prolonged for so long, but also has this sense of duty and obligation because he's actually a very good guy. And so I wasn't expecting this depth and also this width of storyline, and how so much actually happens outside of this, one event that had this ripple effect. I remember watching the movie years ago when it first came out. I don't remember that I liked it very much, and I probably didn't get much out of it because I was young, but I definitely got a lot more out of it reading it in this time around. And not only do you have, his point of view, but then you have the sister's point of view, his love interest, and how she's, like a nurse and stuff during the war, and all the stuff she sees. And you also get to see, this girl grow up because 5 years has passed. So when she did this terrible thing, she was turned 13. And so now she's 18. And she's grown up enough to understand that she did something wrong, but she's still not grown up enough to understand what taking full responsibility is, and understand the depth of the trauma and the problems that she caused. And she just wants to, make things right with her sister, because her sister has cut the family out of their lives and stuff. And so, I don't know, there was so much going on that was so deep and thoughtful and heartbreaking at times, and just I guess I wasn't expecting the depth of it. I now know why it's such a popular story, but it was a lot better than I was expecting. It had a lot more involvement between all the characters, and like this big wide world around, and besides just this these events that I wasn't expecting. So I actually liked the bigger aspect of it, the getting to follow them along on their journey over the years as they develop and change and grow as people, was really rewarding at the end. And yeah, I did enjoy this quite a lot. Another one that I really enjoyed was Nothing to Envy by Barbara Demick, and Demick, I think. And this one is also another fascinating one that takes place. It's a nonfiction, so it's about the North Korean communism dictatorship. The basically kind of inside what it was like during that time, which I didn't know much about it, since it was so closed off and such a like a secret, I guess, knowing how poor they got after the collapse of the Soviet Union and stuff. And so this is written in interviews by defectors from North Korea. So you get this really rich, deep inside story about what life was like there, and so insightful, and it's very interesting, very well written. I really liked learning about something that I had no clue about before, and I learned a lot. I don't want to give too much into it, just because it's a shorter read, so I feel like it's definitely well worth it, and I don't want to, spoil anything. I couldn't tell it nearly as well as what it's being told, how it was being told, and I don't want to, just give away too much about how different it was than I was expecting it to be. So the other one that I really enjoyed that's also very short is Iqbal by Francesco D'Amata. I'm sorry, I'm butchering that name. D'Amata. And that one is about trying to raise awareness for the child labor that they used in Pakistan. And so it's the story of Iqbal, who kind of becomes this this voice or this face of all the children there who have died, who are suffering, and stuff like that. Basically, slave labor. They're beholden to the people who are controlling them, and there's no escape. And that's another one that it's so short, and there's so much depth and some shockingness to it that I don't want to give away too much. It's just worth the read, and I would recommend it, especially with how short it is. You're going to be able to get through it in a day. It's a quick read. Two that I did not enjoy very much at all, and I'm very disappointed because I really wanted to like The Left Hand of Darkness by Ursula K. Le Guin. It's my first book by her, and I really was expecting to really enjoy it. I've heard such great things about her writing and stuff. And I do like the idea that this man goes to another planet and they're basically genderless. They can like alternate gender and stuff like that. And so like you get to understand identity, sexuality, basically false preconceptions of who people are and what they are. And it's supposed to be this rewarding story about understanding and basically understanding people, not judging people. But there, I don't know, it fell short for me. I think it was trying to be more amusing than I found it, and I think that the parts that it was trying to teach you felt over like heavy-handed and like the moral teachings of it. But I really was not a fan at all. I finished it, but I almost didn't. Another one that was just okay was The Charterhouse of Parma by Stendhal. And this is the second Stendhal book I like. I do enjoy his writing style, but I did read The Red and the Black, and it's this easy to follow story. His writing doesn't feel like ancient and old, where you have to really think to understand what he's doing. So the translations I've read have been good. I just don't always think that the execution is good. They run kind of long for me. Some of it is I feel is unnecessary. Overall, I'm glad that I read them. I got some stuff out of each of those books. This one in particular, I wanted it to be a lot better than it was as well. It follows a young guy who, basically for some reason or another, gets disgraced type of thing and goes and fights in Napoleon's War. And that part, because he's supposed to be at the Battle of Waterloo, which I wish that they would have had a lot more information on. And that's, I think, where I kind of lost interest and became disappointed, because it followed this guy's life and, all his adventures and misadventures and all these things that happened to him. And, but because it was trying to follow such a long way in his life, it didn't focus a lot on the things that I found interesting, and it focused on things that I didn't find interesting. And I enjoyed the aspect of him in the war, and I really wish that it would have showed his time at Waterloo more. They did have Napoleon kind of a thread throughout, so he holds importance within the story, but it's not like the central focus of the story. And I did enjoy the fact that you do have like this French and Italian cultural rivalry, or different things that I didn't, I did enjoy that part, like understanding like he wasn't from France. I believe he was the one that was from Italy, and so he had this outsider feel to him. And I liked seeing the different cultures clash. I liked understanding the dynamics of that time period, political, economical, class. That part was interesting. I just didn't find the main character all that interesting to keep following through this life story. You know, like, is he gonna get the love that he, you know, whatever? And like, I didn't really like the love story. So overall, it was just an okay book, but nothing to highly recommend or want to go back to. But I am glad that I read it personally. And my favorite book of the month so far, beyond the ones that I've already mentioned in some of my other videos, is Betty. And this was almost one of my favorite books of the year. Just at the very end, it knocked it down from like a 5-star read to 4.75, with some hesitation. Great, well written, very lyrical, beautiful book. I highlighted so many lines in here just that were thoughtful and deep and beautiful. My problem with it is, yes, the characters were so fleshed out and felt so real, and I was so immersed in this girl's life. Betty is the youngest daughter of a family. She had an older brother, 2 older sisters, and 2 younger brothers, as well as some that had died before she was born. And her mother's white, her father is Native American, indigenous American, and he shares so much culture and richness with them. He was Cherokee, and I really liked that aspect. I really liked hearing his stories and how he saw the world. I loved how he interacted with his children. Her mother was bipolar, I guess. So she was born in the 60s in this book, the character. And so it took place in this, late 60s. She was a child when she started telling the story. And it, so it deals with racism, segregation. You have they were poor. And you have all these elements that made this such a rich, haunting, beautiful story. Her relationship with her 2 sisters was phenomenal. One sister was amazing. One sister was always wanting to be a star, and she, made everything about her and everything. And so you follow the story, and they feel so real. Like the way that she wrote every character, there was depth in it. Even the mom, she would have moments when she's downright awful. And then there would be moments when she was a good and loving mother. And it just, you never really knew what was going to happen. There's so many trigger warnings. This whole book is trigger warning after trigger warning. There was some very graphic depictions of horrible things. And at first, I was rolling with it because you just are so immersed. But as you get towards the end, it almost felt like, I guess, I heard, people describe things as trauma porn. I swear, like, can worse things happen? Oh, wait, let me find something. And that's why I brought it down from going to be one of my favorite books of the year, because pretty soon I'm like, can this much really happen to this one family? Come on now, like, please just let it stop. Like, it hurts. I actually had to stop reading for a while just to, like, recollaborate. There were parts in here that I was bawling so hard, and then there were parts that I was like so upset and just wanted to like throw the book across the room. So absolutely still a fantastic book, but I just felt like the trauma of it felt almost over the top, and I don't know if it was intentional to really get you to see that, you know, maybe it doesn't all happen to one person, but like these things exist in the world, and I don't know, but it just felt so overwhelming at times that I couldn't in good faith keep it at a 5 stars, just because I started getting mad at how things just kept happening. But still absolutely brilliant read. And one thing I did enjoy was she would introduce stuff, and I don't remember if I've read this in books before, but she would introduce a character, and then she'd be like, and then this is how they died like 20 years from now, or this is what happens to them, you know, 50 years from now, or this is what happened to them in the past. Like, as soon as you introduce a character, you kind of know their life story in that first line of meeting them. So you know if they're going to be like this good person or this bad person. And then like if they say that, you know, like they say that they're going to be dead for this reason, and then you meet them and they're like this really good person, you kind of already feel hurt by what you know eventually is going to happen to them, even though what happens to them is completely outside of this book. It felt like a weird way to introduce characters, but also a fascinating, unique way. So I did enjoy that. But yeah, there was just so many things in here that I found that I wanted to just keep for the lyrical beauty of the writing, and how one of the lines she was talking about old age and stuff, and just the way that she described that it was a life well lived, when you can see the wrinkles and you can see this and stuff, was beautiful. But then it's also a very feminist book, because so much of the trauma that's intergenerational ends up being happening to them by the hands of men around them. And so she starts to wonder, you know, like if it's inevitable that what happened to the people around her is going to happen to her. And that's a heavy thing to bear for a child, since she's quite young when the character first starts narrating this book, and you do get to follow her through the years. But oh my gosh, I just the stuff this little girl in the story had to deal with, whether it was stuff that happened to her personally, or the fact that she was the only one who knew about things that happened to other characters, and had to keep it a secret, was brutal. And it shows a different kind of abuse and manipulation when you tell somebody something and then tell them, but you can't tell anybody. And then not only are you bearing their pain, but you're also having to withhold that shame of that secret, and how that destroys families more than any outside influence ever could, is kind of what made this the most heartbreaking thing that I've read all year. And that's saying something, because I've read some really deep stuff, but this was traumatic in ways that I can't describe, and I felt deeply for so many different things that happened. But if you want to consider reading it, please definitely check out any and all trigger warnings, because like I said, there are so many, and some of this stuff can get quite graphic in here. So I can't just blindly recommend it. It's going to be just for certain people who can withstand that, and you have to be in a right mindset to read it. Read it maybe not all at once. Read it in basically sections, so that you can process and then, you know, read something, you know, lighter along the way, because this is heavy. And I know that it's going to stick with me for a very long time. Once again, this one is Betty by Tiffany McDaniel. And so those are the books that I've read so far this month, that are not including any of the tags. I've had a pretty good reading month so far as how many books I've read, but the reading in general has been all over the place. There have been some absolutely fantastic books, and then there were some that I had trouble making it through and didn't really enjoy, especially the Left Hand of Darkness was the worst book that I've read so far this month, but possibly one of my least favorites for the whole year. So I was very disappointed by that one. Anyway, those are my books. Happy reading, and have a great day. Thank you.